Hello again, ladies and gentlemen and other assorted gender assignations. Welcome back to the Bored to Death Bingecast, where we take TV shows and movies and talk about them in easily digestible chunks. I am Jay Winger, being joined again by
Chris,
Zeke,
and welcome to the last Bingecast for Mobile Suit Gundam.
Woohoo! We're done after this! No more! We are free! We are free!
In case you couldn't tell, Zeke is a little excited because he just wants to be done with this particular series so we can move on to the next in the Gundam series.
Wait, there's more? Oh, I thought we were done with the whole thing!
No, it's like Star Wars, it's never ending.
Yeah. It's a never-ending story. But no, we are planning on doing more Gundam stuff. But we're going to be doing shorter series in future ones. So relax, Zeke. It's not going to be as interminable as this one may have seemed.
Unless, like Chris says, the other one of 50... How many episodes is Zeta?
Zeta Gundam is 50 episodes.
That is going to be a long haul. We may experiment with doing other approaches to how we present the Bingecast for those. But that's for us to figure out later. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah, maybe with alcohol later. Wait, you can't drink.
Oh, I can drink. Just it's bad for my health.
Technically, it's bad for everybody's health.
Yep.
Diabetes.
Yeah, that's the main thing. You got the beatus.
The beatus doesn't affect drinking. It's the thyroid that affects the drinking.
You do have a thyroid problem, though.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on medical binge,
Yeah, you don't care too much about our
we go and binge
medical.
watch all of ER and House.
House might actually be interesting.
Can I have the pill addiction if we're doing House?
No.
Oh,
Would you like the red one or the blue one?
the blue one.
Okay.
I don't remember what the pills do.
Red one takes you out of the Matrix. Blue one leaves you inside. So you'd rather? Oh yeah, you'd rather stay and have the steak and.
I rather say I don't want
instead of eating the goop.
I don't want the oatmeal.
The goop, yeah. Anyway, Mobile Suit Gundam. So we got 6 episodes in this binge. It is going to be a long binge. We would have recorded this a little bit sooner. You guys listening won't notice because that all happens in the background. But we needed to find a good time to record it that worked around everybody's schedules. But at any rate, so when we left off, let's see.
They had the Battle of Salomon.
The Battle of Salomon.
Where
Ghiran Zabi was... No, not Ghiran. The big one. The big Arnold-looking guy.
Yeah, he took...
Dozel
Zabi took control of the Big Zom and basically massacred the Federation forces. Mm-hmm. And then after that, Slager had a plan to merge the G-Fighter with the Gundam, because the mobile armor had a special anti-beam field around it. Star Trek nerds, you're going to know this more as shields. And
I thought it was called magnets.
How do they work?
Reverse. Dozel ends up killing Slager when he literally shoots the toenail missiles.
The claws, essentially.
Yeah, they look like claws, but nails, essentially, into the sides of the cockpit of the G-Fighter.
And just sort of popped him into space.
It pops him into space and he just floats off, but if you really think about it, it's like, technically he wasn't, like,
Not
injured.
quite dead yet.
Not quite dead yet, but, I mean, he may have floated off too fast before anybody could retrieve him.
And, or at least to confirm whether he was actually injured in the decompression or what.
Mm-hmm.
But
or
yeah,
maybe his suit was ripped.
We don't know, but he's dead.
All floating in space, wishing he was dead.
Yep. Doing a Sandra Bullock job, just floating off.
No, I was actually thinking the very last episode of Firefly, the bounty hunter, where he was...
Oh, yeah. Well, here I am. Pet robot just woke up over there.
Gundam? What?
No,
seriously, he watches it with us.
This is true. He does. The last few times we've binged, we have commented on the pet robot making noise over there. But So, and also in the most recent episode, The Duel in Texas, was the most recent episode we watched where Makuve tried to confront Amuro, and, well, it went about as well as it does for anybody that goes up against Amuro.
Haha, your mobile suits are superior to my custom-made mech! Sneeze on it, die. Yep. Okay, I'm done.
But on the derelict Texas colony, Char is also there.
But he's more or less pushed to the side by Makuve, because Makuve is like, no, I have a plan. Yeah. You're just going to get in the way. He's like, okay, cool.
And of course, Makuve's plan was, I am going to show up Char. And that goes about as well as it does for anybody that tries to show up Char.
When you try to show up Char, you become a red shirt.
Yep. Even though Char is the one who wears red.
Mm-hmm. But,
except he's wearing next gen red instead of original series red.
Yes.
Yes.
So, next episode, and also in the recent episodes, they started delving in a little bit, or touching on the topic of new types.
Do I need to sit here and explain it?
No, I imagine we're probably going to get a lot more in the next within this binge. I sort of put some of it together, is that it's essentially like Psychic's Jedi sort of stuff.
Well, yeah, that's basically the best way to describe it, is take the Jedi powers and get rid of the ability to move shit around.
It's no telekinesis. It's just the being mind reading or predicting people's moves based on that sort of stuff.
And sensing other new types.
I sense you, Highlander.
There can only be one?
There can be only one.
I know exactly who you're quoting.
The Kurgan.
Yes.
So the next episode is 37, Char and Sayla. So we're going to get a little bit more about the former Zeon siblings.
Wait, there's only 6 episodes, right?
Yeah, 6 episodes left.
That means there's been 6 episodes. That one scene that I know about is finally going to happen.
We can talk about it. I'll make a note when we get there. So
if it happens, if it doesn't happen, I'll be like, it didn't happen!
Yeah. So, at any rate, that's all for this, for the intro. So, we'll see you after the binge. Thanks for listening to the Bored to Death Bingecast. You can contact us on social media, on Facebook or Twitter at BTD_Bingecast, or email us at binge.cast@outlook.com. We are part of the CKCC Radio podcast community. Go ahead and check out our fellow podcasts like The Nerd Table, J Bunny's Music Hub, Ranking Tracks, The Stupid Sexy Podcast, Real Paranormal Talk, The Race Nerd Podcast, Motivational Moves, and Club Kayfabe Wrestle Talk. CKCC Radio can be found through your podcast streaming platform of choice: Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and our home on Podbean. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Shoot us a comment if you want to. Thanks again for listening. And now, the binge is done, so let's get to the discussion. And we're back. We are finished with the binge of not My Hero, Mobile Suit Gundam. I'm sorry, my brain just somehow doesn't always cooperate with my mouth.
With My Hero Gundam?
Yeah, My Hero Gundam. there's a crossover for you. I should get more familiar with My Hero, so we could then end Gundam and write that fanfic. Anyway, so we got to the end. The conclusion. This would have been the conclusion of the 1 year war with the armistice.
This is a excuse me, real quick.
We all gotta stay hydrated, you know.
Yeah. This is one part of the 1 year war that you're going to see. The ending to the 1 year war, because we're with the side stories that we're going to watch. You get to see different perspectives.
Yeah, which is good. I always do like being able to see events from series with from other perspectives like that. It's one of those things that I've always felt that the Star Wars universe should focus on more than just the same core group of characters that we always get the focus, the Skywalker family and their friends. Yeah. It's one reason I liked Rogue One when it came so much when it came out because it focused entirely on people that weren't part of that core group.
Rebels didn't have that core group.
Yeah, and Rebels was very good too for pretty much that exact same reason is one reason I liked Star Wars Rebels so much is that it didn't just focus on the same group of characters all the time.
No. The next one that we're going to watch is 8th MS Team, which, with the exception of the first episode, takes place entirely on Earth.
Okay, but let's not talk about 8th MS Team and the side stories. Let's finish up with our discussion of the conclusion of Mobile Suit Gundam.
Chris has just gone from one Gundam to a time skip to the future.
So overall, before we get to talking about it, what are your overall thoughts of this particular anime?
I do like it. It's interesting to watch an anime that predates all of the sort of anime tropes that became more common in later years. You know, we commented on it while we were watching that it doesn't have a whole lot of the same shonen anime tropes that go along that you usually would get in an anime like this, where it's like it doesn't follow the same sort of story or character arcs to the same extent that later series seemingly would.
I wouldn't call this anywhere near a shonen anime.
Well, you get what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but
that's just the closest comparison I have for that sort of thing. I haven't watched nearly as much anime as the rest of you guys, but I've watched enough shonen anime to recognize some of the usual tropes that apply.
You probably watched a lot more of like the more current animes, like from within maybe like the past like 15 years.
No, not even that.
Really? Yeah,
I mean, I got into some of my first exposure to anime came from Toonami.
Like a lot of people do.
Like a lot of people. And one of my favorites that I got into later after I joined like an anime club when I briefly attended classes at Nova. No, it wasn't at Nova. It was during my one semester at the University of Maryland. That's when I got exposed to Rurouni Kenshin, which is still one of my favorites. And you and I, Zeke, still got to watch the live action.
Oh, I'm joining in on that one.
But at any rate, Gundam. I did like it. The new type stuff. Yeah, they built up to it slowly, but I puzzled about the change in Char's character after the new type stuff started come to the front, because prior to that we knew that his goal was to get revenge on the Zabi family, and then suddenly after his time with Lala, he's like, no, now I want to usher in the age of new types.
Because he sees new types as a form of human evolution. They kind of like, not to skip over again, but they kind of go into just a little bit more into that in Zeta Gundam with him.
But it felt like it came, like the shift in his motivations came out of left field. Granted, it was only for like a couple of episodes in there, but at the same time, I'm like,
it may have
what?
It may have been a result of him having worked with Lala and seeing the potential of a new type.
It's possible. It just still felt really strange that it came out of left field like that.
Oh, come on! What about the whiplash of him going back to, hey, I want to kill those people again?
Well, yeah, that's another thing. Like in the last episode, he then suddenly is like, I'm gonna make the Zabis still have to pay for their crimes, and he goes to kill Kycilia.
I have a theory for that. Though.
What?
Because like how Amuro was talking to Lala, I have a feeling Lala had a message in Char's brain to go, hey, you have a mission, follow your mission.
You have your own personal goals.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't overlook your own personal goals. I guess so, but we never see anything like that with Char. We get some of the Lala sending her little force messages from beyond the grave, like the proto Jedi that she is.
Yeah,
we can play anytime now.
Yeah.
Oh God,
oh God. Yeah, that was a little bit weird.
Like what I said before when we first started this is that Star Wars is one of the main influences for.
Yeah, and the new types. Are you can see that there with the whole. Being able to predict the future or predict a person's actions before they even do it. You know, we see that a lot more with Amuro, especially once he gets the Gundam essentially upgraded by Dr. Han.
Well, by upgraded, it gets a magnetic coating, so that way its joints move faster. Because Amuro was fighting the Brabro with Charlie Abul in it, who's another Newtype, and as he's fighting him because of his own reaction time, Amuro's reaction time, he's moving faster than the Gundam can actually move, and he shorts out the controls.
Overheats them. He overheats them, but essentially. But yes, same basic idea.
Well, you see the sparks flying inside the cockpit. So
yeah, that's true. But yeah, and I did definitely pick up on that whole new types are the future sort of thing, and Char even had a brief moment of that in his sword fight with Amuro in the last episode, and I was literally looking at it thinking they're literally having the lightsaber duel, only they're not using lightsabers, they're using fencing foils, but
which don't have the little ball tip. Yeah,
these are proper live blades, not the stuff that you would use in a fencing class.
Yes, they kind of stab each other.
And
the pointy end goes in here.
And furthermore, with the Star Wars parallels, Ghiran and the Solar Ray, it was literally the Death Star.
Yeah, it's actually called a colony laser because it's literally a colony that they've taken, hauled out, turned into a big ass laser. And
it works very similar to the solar flare that the Federation used in the Battle of Salomon.
Yeah. I just love the little ship going over the.
It's like get out of there! Your shadow is lowering our output.
You're lowering our output by 0.001. Get out of the way!
I don't think they specified how much it was lowered, but yeah, at the same time, it was like you little ship. But it was like when Ghiran was first told that that the solar ray was operational. I was like. I literally turned to Zeke and Chris. I was like, "Now witness the power of this fully armed and operational battle station." It was very much like and of course, it was also in the midst of all this that the explicit comparisons between Ghiran and Adolf Hitler were made in this freaking series.
I wanted to kind of bring that up earlier because I didn't reveal which character it was, but I said, yeah, one of the characters does get compared with Hitler, but I'm not going to say who it is, and we finally got to that.
Yeah, and it was Ghiran's own father, Ghiran Zabi, who told him basically it was like, are you familiar with a man by the name of Adolf Hitler? Yes, he was from the Middle Ages, wasn't he? I was like, wow. But then again, this is future time, so stuff gets recategorized as time goes on.
Well, technically, they don't really specify when the Universal Century first started, what the previous year was before that.
Before the new reckoning, basically came into being.
Zeke, what did you think of it, overall?
I really don't like the new type towards the end because it seems like every time we turn around, it's bing, 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 bing.
Yeah, it was all the
Okay, you had two, which was cool, and maybe a third. Why is she becoming one of a sudden? Why is it? Lala, stop messing with people's brains. But
yeah, I was a little bit. I get the impression that new types is basically just literally the in-universe term for psychics, and a lot of people in the Universal Century, especially people that were born out in space, like Char and Sayla and them, are more likely to develop new type abilities, but it's not necessarily confined just to them. Was Amuro born on Earth, or was he born?
Amuro was born on Earth, but he spent enough time in the colony from the first episode.
Okay. So, there you go. He still was in his developing years, as it were.
And then the captain thing was Amlo is now missing. It's like, what was her name? Char's sister.
No, Sailor.
Sailor, you're from the Xeon. You can do it.
Yeah, it's just like you don't know that,
Captain. Why are you spewing nonsense?
It did feel like they suddenly were pushing the Newtype thing a little bit too hard.
Yeah, well, a little bit, but not enough to the point to where they're just trying to shove it down your throat like, this is the new thing.
Yeah, this is the new hotness. Everybody's got the Newtype powers now.
And I have to say, the iconic pose for Gundam, I was a little disappointed by that. It's like, autopilot! Gundam points up and shoots! Why couldn't you use that earlier? Any other time you could put autopilot on?
Probably because he didn't want to use it, and he probably didn't have any reason to use it.
Autopilot thing felt like it was more there for the early stages when he was still developing his piloting skills. And then once his Newtype abilities started to wake up, suddenly he didn't need it anymore.
But he needed this because he knew that something was going to happen to the Gundam, and if he didn't get out of it before it got to this one particular room, he may have gone down with the Gundam.
Yeah.
So, plus the Gundam got off one last shot before it was pretty much completely crippled.
Yeah. Well, basically, it was mostly melted by the Xiong's laser. Yeah.
But the Gundam got one final shot at that and didn't really destroy it. It more probably just badly damaged it, and then Char had to abandon it.
Yeah. But I did enjoy the series overall. It was good to sort of see the definitive mecha anime in its entirety, sort of thing. Because this was literally the series that launched an entire genre.
Not really.
Well,
there were mecha animes before that. It's just that they weren't as good, I guess I could say.
This is the one that basically codified everything about a mecha anime.
Wasn't Robotech at the same time?
No, Robotech came out afterwards.
Came afterwards? Okay.
Because, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I went to this one anime convention, and one of the people who actually worked on Mobile Suit Gundam, I think he was one of the ones who was one of the mech designers for the anime, was there, and he went on to do Robotech. But the whole concept for Robotech, for the suits for that, transforming from jet to halfway, with the arms, it's the jet with the legs and the arms sticking out, to a full robot form. That was his idea.
Okay.
Because it was something that he had always wanted to see, and I'm like, wasn't Transformers out at that time?
I mean, you see that happen a lot where creators will independently of one another come up with similar concepts and produce them about the same time. And yeah, inevitably one is going to be accused of being derivative of the other or ripping off the other or whatever. We saw that, for example, with The Raid, Redemption, and Dread. They were both made at the same time. The ideas were conceived of independently of one another, and due to production delays, Dread came out after The Raid, and everyone's like, oh, this is just ripping off The Raid. No, they were made at the same time, and they came up with the ideas independently of one another. So it's possible the whole Transformers thing and the Robotech stuff literally completely independently of one another. But There you go.
I do have one more complaint about the series.
What?
Who names their character Mulligan?
You really don't like that, do you?
You do know why, right?
It means do-over, yes.
So it's like, hey, Mulligan, go get my ship.
But you know that is an actual name. Not like a given name. It's a surname.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
It was probably his last name. Because in the military, in the military, you technically get called by your last name first,
by your
and
surname,
your first name last.
I would hate to be a last name Mulligan.
Well, there you go.
No offense to anybody out there.
Yeah, no offense to anybody.
Is Mulligan.
No offense to anybody out there named Mulligan. Zeke doesn't like your name.
Well, I just want to know, are they called duos in real life?
I don't know.
Possibly.
But
I mean, I had a teacher whose last name was Maxwell.
First name Smart?
Oh no, not Maxwell. Her last name was Barton, and every time like when I found out that she was single, I'm like, please adopt a boy and name him Troa.
Oh my god.
But there wasn't too much of the whole like day in the limelight stuff before somebody died in the series of episodes that we got. There was maybe a little bit as they focused on the last remaining Zabis with Ghiran and Cassilia, but even they weren't quite humanized to the same extent that they sort of did with Dozel, and especially not, they weren't quite presented as sympathetically as somebody like Ramba Raw.
Mm-hmm. With that being said, we must ask the most important question. Who is your most favorite death of the whole franchise?
Favorite death? But how do you mean?
Like someone that you glad you get to see the character grow a little bit. You got to see, like with mine, mine's Ramba Rawzi.
Ramba Raw is probably what I would go with also, because they gave him a lot more attention before the final episode with him, and they presented him as a very noble character. He's patriotic to Zeon, but he's not a bad person. He treats his men well. He's a family man. They gave him a lot of humanizing attributes, especially and then they ramped it up a lot in his last episode,
like when
so that you would really sympathize with his death. It's just sort of like, or you feel the emotional impact of his death.
Like when he says, "This is how all soldiers' lives end." Takes a grenade, jumps out into the Gundam's hand, and the grenade explodes as he lands.
I mean, that's certainly a way to go out. I think my favorite in the 6 episodes we just saw, not so much because he got humanized or anything, but because he really, really deserved it, was Ghiran. Shot point blank in the back of the head.
By his own sister.
Oh, God. I want to know how she snuck up a gun that big.
It was connected to her belt, much like what Char carries around with him.
It's just literally part of their uniform.
That's just strange.
Probably because she's a high rank. Probably because she's not just because she's a member of the Zabi family, but because
she's a high-ranking officer.
So of course,
it's like, are you going to tell her no, you can't have that?
So, the higher the ranking the officer, the bigger the gun.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, look what Char carries around with him, and he's a captain.
I like to imagine that the cane that we saw, or walking stick or whatever that we saw Ghiran leaning his hand on a few times, was actually just a rifle that he had there, but he just never had a chance to shoot it.
I mean, because of the way it sounded when he dropped it, when Garma was killed, and then you just heard that the typical
clack clack clack
clack clack clack sound that a wooden stick would probably have going down.
Don't ruin my imagination. I just like the idea that it was something more than.
Well,
that.
It had a pointy end, so we'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. But while we're talking about the deaths of the zombies, we should probably also mention Degwin. Because when the solar ray got fired, Degwin Zabi, the sovereign of Zeon, we saw earlier in the binge that he wasn't happy with Ghiran's warmongering. He basically was like, "This war's gone on too long. We should, sort of thing.
We should be working towards.
We should be working towards peace." And Ghiran's like, and there will be peace once we beat the Federation. It's like, no, that's not what he's saying.
So he goes to meet with General Revel,
who's the leader of the Federation forces.
He's not really the leader, but he's
of the Federation forces that are attacking Zeon.
Yeah, so
he's part of the Federation High Command.
They go to meet up and to talk. Peace negotiations. To
begin negotiations, yeah.
And right as their ships are meeting up, and not just their ships, but also like their fleets, because they have their own escorts, and a part of the fleet that Revel was with was supposed to go to Aboa Ku to take part in the final battle.
Yep.
And the beam from the
solar ray
from the colony laser hits both fleets and kills essentially everybody.
Yep.
There are remnants of like some of the Federation fleet that survived it, but a good chunk of their fleet was destroyed, and General Revel was killed.
General Revel was killed. Degwin was killed, and when Cassilia found out, she was like, "What?"
Yeah. Our dad's ship was where again?
and then she basically asks Ghiran, "Did you know that the Great Degwin, which was the name of his ship, was there?" And he's like, "Yeah."
He's like, "Yeah, and."
And and the look she gave him, Zeke called it like the look of death.
That's the look that you're gonna die.
And I literally was like, I'm fully expecting her to be like, we'll get through this battle, and then once this battle is over, because or once we got to finish the war, present the united front. This is how I interpret it in the moment. It's like we have to present the united front, but then once we win, I'm gonna kill you. She didn't wait that long.
She waited a few minutes before pulling a bullet in his hands. Like, if anybody does not like this, still it after the war.
Yeah, press charges after the.
You can file charges against me after the war, but not till after we're done here.
Mm-hmm.
And when she's trying to escape, like this is after the Xiong's been destroyed. This is after the Gundam's been heavily crippled, and Char and Amuro finish their sword fight, which ends with Char essentially stabbing and breaking his sword in Amuro's shoulder, and
Amuro manages to pierce his helmet and like through the mask, but it slowed it down long enough that it wasn't a fatal wound.
Yeah, it just left a little cut. Char, having gotten a new helmet and a rocket launcher, floats up to
the Zanzibar.
The Zanzibar that...
She was literally stealing his ship.
And he salutes her and goes, "Garma, I'm sending your sister to you.
This is my final gift."
And she goes, "Is that Char?" And he points it and shoots into the bridge of the ship. And the missile decapitates her, and after that, it explodes in the cockpit. And I guess all the ship systems were still going because the ship was still, rising up out of a Boaku and was actually opening fire on the surrounding Earth Federation forces.
And then in typical sort of Michael Bay fashion, one rocket and everything explodes.
Now, do we want to talk about the death of the White Base?
The White Base also got damaged in the fight, and as it was touching down on a Boaku, some enemy Zaku or Doms, I couldn't tell which one. It doesn't matter, but they cripple its engines, so now it's stuck there, and so the White Base crew literally just grabs some rifles and rocket launchers themselves and prepares to defend the White Base.
And they still did not learn that valuable lesson.
And not only that, the gun tank and the gun cannon also got shot down. So did the G fighter.
And that was a valuable lesson.
I think that one just came in for a really rough landing to the point where it wouldn't be able to take off again.
Yeah, but and they're all ready to just go out fighting until Amuro basically uses the Force like Luke Skywalker to tell them all, just like, here, go, tells Sayla, go this way and you'll get to the White Base, and then tells all the White Base crew, you have to abandon the ship.
It's like, guys, stop defending the ship, leave now, it's going to explode.
Well, I don't know that he necessarily told them that it's going to explode, that he's like, you need to evacuate, we need to evacuate now, so they do, and then it blows up.
So,
and he then flies in the core fighter, which was also damaged.
While he's getting directions from Katz, Letz, and Kika,
the war orphans,
and they're basically telling him, okay, turn left here. All right, now go right. Keep going. All right, 3, 2, 1,
0.
And then there's an explosion, and you see the core fighter come hurling out of this one docking area in a Boaku, and Amuro comes out, and he essentially abandons the core fighter before basically saying goodbye to Lala, but also saying, we can be together anytime you want. And then he rejoins the White Base crew.
Yep, and
That's a scary thought.
having a Force ghost in your head.
We can be together anytime you want. Does that mean that one day she's going to wake him up with a bullet to his head?
I don't know how, but maybe.
Force ghost powers.
No, it would probably be more like a ghost blowjob, like in Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah. We always come back to that one for some reason.
Well, it's because it's the thing that always stands out to me that, it's like, how did this get a PG, only get a PG rating? Because they didn't have anything between PG and R.
But the thing is that, like, she essentially does reappear to him every so often, but it's usually, like, in his head. It's not like...
Is she blue?
No. It's, like I said, it's not like a Force ghost where you can physically see them. It's only in his head. Only
like a voice kind of thing. Okay. But
it's like Obi-Wan when Luke.
Run, Luke, run.
No. Well, that and when he's in the trench and he goes, use the Force, Luke, and all you can hear is his voice. It's like that.
Well, he was also brand new at the whole, being a ghost after death. He probably hadn't yet mastered how to physically manifest like he would in Empire. But why are we talking about Star Wars? Let's get back to
like I said.
They have lightsabers, laser sabers, Force ghost powers, Newtype power. Yeah, tomato.
Like I said, you see the similarities.
Yeah, I do. It's very, very clear.
Because they said that in Japan, Gundam is about as successful as what Star Wars is here.
I believe it.
And I'm talking about in terms of merchandise also.
Yep, I believe it.
Or as what Yogurt said, merchandising,
where the real money from the movie is made.
You guys scale me on a very, very...
You know what we're talking about.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but you guys did it in sync.
Yeah. He and I are on the same wavelength a lot of the time.
What else is there?
The walk in the hard place. You guys want to talk about that?
What?
When you want your protagonist...
Oh, the catch-22 of a likable antagonist kind of thing.
Not the likable antagonist, the people that you like on the ship, and then your hateable antagonist being related to each other, and you're like, oh, I don't want her to feel so bad because of her brother.
You're talking about like Sayla and Char. Okay.
You want,
I wasn't sure exactly what you were talking about when we were watching. When you just said make a note of this, I was like, okay.
Because you want Char to get his just desserts, but then you're like,
because he is. You're thinking he is way too good. He needs to get some comeuppance.
Yes.
And he never really does. It's like, he's a great pilot, but he's up against Amuro, who just starts becoming better.
Like, he even noticed that when they were fighting together outside of a Boaku with Char and the Xiong and Amuro and the Gundam, where he goes, is this even the same pilot? He's gotten better. He doesn't know that the Gundam was given a little bit of an upgrade.
Yeah. That's the closest. Yeah, I get it. That's the closest Char ever really gets to getting defeated.
But even that.
But even then, it's like he gets damaged and he retreats from battle, and he's still managing to pull off all of his schemes. Like he manages to set up Garma for getting killed. He manages to set up, well, not so much set up Makuve for being killed, but it's just sort of like he's there to help Makuve. Makuve's like no, and Char's like, all right,
cool. I'll go hang out over here.
Yeah, and that was literally. I think his taking out Makuve was literally just to weaken Cassilia a little bit.
Yeah, because he was more loyal to Cassilia than any of the other Zabis.
Yeah. But yeah, I get what you're saying, Zeke, that it does feel like Char never really got that.
I wanted to get what he wanted, but at the same time I didn't, because I didn't want... Because
he was a bad guy, or an antagonist, rather.
Mm-hmm. But the sister, I felt bad for the sister, because you go attach these characters, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't want her to go through the hardship of losing a brother.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Well, yeah, especially at that one point in time where, because Char had disappeared completely, and she didn't even know if he was still alive, so she asked that one Zeon soldier, hey, do you know where Char is? He goes, yeah, he was reassigned.
And that's, yeah, okay. Well, and that's just sort of typical familial love there.
Yeah, that's why you don't want because you go so
it's like I want you to. I don't want you to win, but I don't see a way for you to not win without dying, and you dying is going to make her sad, and I
Yes.
don't want her to be sad.
The catch-22.
I get what you're saying
So,
now.
I have to go back to what the if you remember what I said, what Tomino's original concept was for the show, and this was put into manga form, is that the original plan was Amuro and Sailor were supposed to hook up, and halfway into the series, Amuro was supposed to die, and Char, because Amuro dying kind of like ruined his plans a little bit, because he was gonna let Amuro essentially defeat Principality of Zeon, so that he could then take over. Well, because Amuro was killed by another Zeon soldier, Char actually joins the White Base crew, where he gets his own Gundam painted in his colors.
Makes some sense then why he was given a lot of those sort of rival, protagonist sort of vibes to him.
Yeah. Now,
if that was the original plan, it makes more sense why there were a lot of those characteristics to the character.
Exactly. So, after he joins the White Base crew, Sayla tells him, you're my brother, I love you, but because you killed Amuro, I can never forgive you. So he ends up fighting alongside the White Base crew up until the Battle of Aboa Ku, and after the Zabi family is killed off, he takes over the Principality of Zeon, and the White Base crew has to fight Char at that point.
Okay. Would have been for an interesting take on things, I imagine.
The funny thing is, if they actually reboot the Gundam franchise, like they've been rebooting everything else, and they go with that.
Well, supposedly the director of Mobile Suit Gundam: The Origin wants to remake the original Mobile Suit Gundam, because a lot of people, as what I said before, it's a product of its time, right? Mm-hmm. I'm talking about in terms of the animation, maybe some of the humor. I've actually heard some people say that the reason why they don't want to watch this is because of the animation quality. I'm like, well, what do you expect? It was 1979.
Yeah.
Well, they can watch the old Transformers, though.
Yeah. So...
I think that anybody that basically is like, I'm not going to watch that because the animation sucks, but, I'll watch old school Transformers any day. It's like, no, you don't get to basically say that, because the animation is basically the same.
Except one was American.
Literally that is the only difference. It's like you don't get to poo-poo on Gundam because its animation is old, while basically saying that Transformers animation is still good.
So he wants to basically go and...
Or rather, watch that without commenting on the animation sort of thing.
And the animation errors. But there's more of those in Transformers than in Gundam.
Yeah.
But anyways, the director for Mobile Suit Gundam: The Origin has said that he wants to go back and actually remake the original one.
Okay.
With
more modern
animation and everything, because when we
maybe some better character design, or like tweaks to the appearance, rather, not so much.
The character designs in Gundam: The Origin, they still stick to like the original character designs, just that they're updated with today's animation.
Okay.
And the mobile suits are all represented in through CGI, but everything else is typical.
I'm somehow not surprised about that.
But it looks really good. And another thing is that if we go back to the very first episode, no, not the very first episode, the second episode, when Sayla sees Char and is surprised to see him, there was actually a little bit of a gap between when she last saw him and that time. Hence the reason why she almost didn't recognize him, and that's why she told him, take your mask off. She wanted to see if it was actually him or not.
Yeah.
Because she didn't know what happened to him after he joined the Principality of Zeon.
Yep.
So yeah, there's that little bit of character development right there.
Okay. Well, but regardless, definitely did enjoy seeing the series. Yeah, as you say, product of its time. Animation quality doesn't hold up to modern stuff, but what could?
And we did watch
after
this,
30 plus years.
Now we did watch this on Blu-ray, and I gotta say it does look
yeah.
The Blu-ray quality for the original Mobile Suit Gundam does look really good.
Mm-hmm.
And same goes with a lot of the other ones that came out that they put on Blu-ray. They look a lot sharper. But Zeke, I gotta ask you this one because I know how much you love mechs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're the mech guy.
How did you feel about the Gundam's ending? I'm not talking about the anime. I'm talking about the suit itself.
What, you mean the melting point?
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I mean, it's a good story piece, yes, but like I said before, the way that it did is like walking out on autopilot and pointing the gun up and shooting as part of his arm and body gets melted.
But what was going through your mind as its arm gets shot off, its head gets shot
Oh,
off?
dude, that's your series. That's your mech destroying. Like, it's awesome. It's cool.
Yeah.
But my question here is, the Gundam main camera is in the head.
Yeah.
No, he had a spare one. There was apparently an extra one somewhere.
Probably somewhere on the chest front.
Probably.
But it's like, again, the primary one is from the head because when you're in the suit, which in the mobile suit, which is human shaped, it probably makes it a lot easier for you to navigate with when the camera is head mounted.
I do wish I got to see a Pacific Rim moment from it, though.
What kind of Pacific Rim?
You remember when they're fighting the giant last boss,
right?
And they're like limping with the mech? You're like, I'm just gonna get there. I want to see that with a little bit of Gundam. His leg melted, just limping a little bit forward. Like, I can still get there.
I think you do see that. I just can't remember where.
I am very surprised though they didn't do the whole "I'm never going to pilot Gundam again" story kind of thing. Because
when he tried to like run away, on Earth.
No, not when he tried to run away. When he killed Lala.
Oh.
The emotional damage.
Yeah, that's true.
That's one of your stereotypical tropes that they didn't play up.
Well, the thing is that he knew that he had to finish out the war. Mm. So, and plus he was still trying to... Because he blamed Char for bringing her into the war. Mm-hmm. Technically, he told him, he was like, why did you bring Lala into the war?
Because, and especially because... Yeah, it's emotionally distraught, and I'm never going to pilot Gundam again. Would make more sense, I think, if it had been earlier in the series, after he killed somebody for the first time, sort of thing. Somebody that
he got to know, though.
Like maybe after Rambaral, after he had a chance to meet Rambaral, realize this guy is a Zeon, but he's not a bad person.
It's like it's like the line from Wreck-It Ralph. You are a bad guy, but you are not
a bad guy. You are a bad guy, but this does not make you a bad guy.
I will say that the mech destruction was very nice.
Yeah, I did like how they sort of showed the difference between the Geong and the Gundam in that final confrontation, like. The Gundam gets the blow in on the Geong, and it starts to blow up, and the head just detaches, and then it shoots the head off the Gundam, but the Gundam's like, I don't need the head. Bye, 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 bye. I was half expecting like a Gurren Lagann moment where like the.
I gotta get back. I gotta get on that
one. Get the head, put it on your own head. Yeah!
I'm taking over your Gundam. You're taking over my Gundam? Who the hell do you think you are?
Do you remember in 8th MS Team when one of the Gundams had its head knocked off?
It's been a long time. Like, we're talking about 19 years plus here, dude. You really think we'll memorize that? I better memorize what I had for dinner last night.
What did you have for dinner last night?
Food.
Or, speaking of, like, mechs decapitating, Genlock. Remember when they first encountered the Nemesis and what's her name's mech's head gets knocked off and she starts freaking out.
Trying to see and think about which is my favorite mech death. I don't have to think that one through because there's so many good ones.
Yeah.
Are we talking about in terms of Mobile Suit Gundam?
Any mech death.
Any mech death. Yeah, I don't know that I could really pick one.
I don't know. I kind of like the infinite wipe on Big O.
I gotta rewatch Big O.
I gotta get him to watch Big O.
Well, hey,
one thing I would say about Gundam, no disrespect against Gundam. Gundam was really good with the sounds, but something about the Big O walk just did not. Like the Gundam walk was good. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't ring to me like the Big O Walk did.
That's because they implemented something that's not really seen in a whole lot of mech animes. Gravity.
This is true.
It's like in the last Power Rangers movie when they finally formed the Megazord and it's not moving all fast and shit like it was in like the 90s TV shows.
Because it's a big giant fucking robot.
Yeah.
Those things are heavy.
Well, in this case, it's like it has gravity working against it. They're not going to show that science in a 1970s anime.
Well, I know that's just the sound though. Like some of the moving parts, they sound really good, but there's something about that sound.
I think that the sound effects that they use for the suits walking in the later ones sound better than the ones that the sound effects that they had in the original Mobile Suit Gundam.
Oh yeah.
Well,
that sounds like a cast by itself. The sound effects of animes.
I do like when they put the extra work for that sort of stuff in.
So
I commented on that, like the little things, like they show the ships like docking and the conversion stuff going on. I'm like, I appreciate that they actually went to the trouble of showing that when they could just as easily just hand waved it away.
Oh, yeah.
So what was your least favorite moment from this? Like, was there any point during the anime that kind of took you out of the anime?
I mean, the closest thing was just like this shift in Char's motivations.
The third act.
It just felt really, really weird to me.
The third act. Maybe it's because I'm getting used to this anime style now that we have now, where it's action, 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 a little bit of dialogue, a little bit of story, action, 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 action. The third act, you had a good amount of action, a good amount of dialogue from the first and the second act. Mm-hmm. When we're getting from they left back into space, it felt like they were just kind of dragging a little bit more each time. And that's why I was at the point where I'm like, please, make it end!
Well, if you remember, they were originally aiming for 50 episodes. And the show was facing cancellation, so they said, wait, let us finish the show off first, so that way we can at least have a proper ending.
Yeah.
And then, we'll end the show.
But that's why I think I hated the most was that third act when they left space, back into space, and it just kept dragging slowly.
The lead up to like the Battle of Solomon and everything.
Yeah, when you get back to the Battle of Solomon, you got back to the action with some story.
But it's like
dialogue.
the lead up to it just took too long.
Yeah, it's like the pirate movies.
I can sort of see that.
Pirate movie 1, Pirates of the Caribbean, good. Pirates 2, which I don't remember the name of it. It was a bridge for the third movie. We
Dead Man's Chest.
didn't need it.
Well, the problem with the second two Pirates movies is that it was a 2-part trilogy,
and that's why I was thinking.
I hated, and I still hate 2-part trilogies like that.
And that's why I was thinking. That's why I compare the third act to. It's the second Pirates movie. We could have got some more like flashbacks or maybe a montage of some sort showing.
There were a lot of flaws with the later Pirates movies.
Oh, actually, you know what I was thinking of? The Matrix sequels.
That's another one.
Because
another 2-part trilogy.
Because like I remember seeing, I think it was Matrix Reloaded, the second one, and the majority of the time I was like, this didn't need to be made. This did not need to be made at all. Sorry for anybody who's a Matrix fan. I'm sorry.
You're talking to a Matrix fan here, but even I recognize the sequels were flawed. Right. Seriously flawed. And I think part of it was just that the Wachowskis had so many ideas that they wanted to put into the Matrix universe. Because there had been other stuff that is considered canon in the Matrix universe, like the Animatrix. There were comics that were on the Matrix website and like short stories that were written there as well. And all of that stuff sort of explored more stuff within the Matrix universe. They didn't all focus on Neo or the crew of the Nebuchadnezzar. But it's like when they were they got the green light to make the Matrix sequels. They were like, we have all these other ideas that we want to make, that we want to put into the Matrix universe. So it's like werewolves and vampires and angels and all this other stuff. That they were all real. They were part of a previous version of the Matrix. I was like, what? Wait. Okay, that's cool. And at the time, I thought it was awesome. But it's like over time, I came to recognize just how that just didn't work.
Younger Jay, yay! Older Jay, why?
No, less why and just could have been done a whole lot better.
But I'm trying to think of what the weakest part of it for me was.
I mean, I'm with you, Zeke, that it did feel like they dragged things out a little bit at certain points where it didn't really need to. But
now, do you feel like it could have gone for, up to 50 episodes, or are you fine with where it ended?
I'm fine with where it ended.
And maybe ended a little bit sooner in my case. Like cut out.
Yeah. You were really. You were just because you wanted to get onto 8th MST.
Well, not just that. It's just like it's so hard to get into something that was dragging so hard, and that's why.
Zeke, no offense, but this is how I feel about the CW Arrow. DC
oh, dude,
shit.
Do not get me wrong. And you, like, if anybody heard our last Bingecast, we already determined that Arrow season 2 is where it should have ended, not season 7.
He means the Ramblecast about the shared universes. Go watch / listen to those. By the way,
I understand what you mean. That's why, like, when we were watching Batwoman, it's like, why are we still watching this? Like,
you see, for me that was with a lot of the other ones though, because like for me it just dragged on, and I know Flash is supposed to be about the fastest man alive, but it felt like his show was too freaking slow.
Only when he was in costume. Keep that in mind. But we gotta get back on the Gundam.
Yes.
But okay, so how did you guys feel about the character development for this one? Do you think it had a good character development?
It felt a little up and downy to me at times. Like Amuro, okay, I understand some of Amuro's character development in the early part of the series was down to him, dealing with the battle fatigue and all of that. It felt like he went from being exhausted and jerked to back to to normal, and it just felt like
I think his body adjusted to it.
Probably, but at the same time, it felt like a little bit. It's like
going from like night crew to day crew. Where you used to going to work at like 5-6 o'clock in the afternoon, and then suddenly your boss is like, "Hey, you're on morning shift now. You have to be in here at 8 a.m."
Or I can actually point to something like that. When I was working at the help desk at my job, I had previously been working the afternoon shift. I would come in at 2 and I would leave at like 10:30. And that suited me fine because I'm not a morning person. Never have been, never will be. And then, granted, this is something I deliberately chose. But when I then went to the 12-hour shifts, I had to be there at 6 a.m. And having to make the adjustment to getting to bed earlier and getting up earlier like that was a real struggle.
I don't think you ever made that adjustment. As much as I live with you, I think you still have that problem. It's down to, again, I am not a morning person, and it's just my current job. I do have to be there at like 8 a.m., which is better than having to, which is better than having to be there at 6. But when I was going in at 6, I was also had like a half-hour drive out to McLean. Which is like 30 minutes or so. So I was getting up at like 4:30.
So is there anything that you would have changed about this? Besides the third act?
I don't know exactly.
If we had writers creation, or if there's anything that we could just like, if we want to make this better, how do you mean change?
Okay, story stays the same. How do you, if you are allowed to like shorten and lengthen it however much you feel is necessary, what would you have taken out? Would you have compressed anything? Would you have just dragged some stuff out? How would you have
compressed the third act? I'm sorry, dude. I would like to see that as a maybe two or three small short episodes showing time skips going forward. Like, hey, we made it here. Here's an important document. Oh, here's another important document. Not the, 7, 8 episodes for that? I think it was.
Are we talking about like when they went to Side 6?
After we left Earth. And then they got to, I think, a little bit after Side 6. So Side 6 is where they started picking up a little bit more on the action.
Because it was after Side 6, they had the little confrontation outside Side 6, and then there was the Battle of Salomon.
Yeah. That's what they start. And then they start getting you information along with action sequences. That's why I think do a montage between those 2 points.
Okay, I could sort of see that a little bit.
But if I had 4 wireless creation, I would say the General Ramsey? No.
Revel.
Well,
The Santa-looking guy?
the blue Gundam suit.
Rambaral.
General Wambo.
He wasn't a general, but Rambaral.
He would not die. He would have found his way back to the last fight, and he would have been the reason why the Zeon would fall.
Except there's just one problem with that. He's more of a. I think he was more of a fighter on Earth. Like I think he preferred to fight on Earth
rather than in
space.
Zero G.
Like whereas like the it's kind of like the Black Tri-Stars. I think they're more effective in space than they were on the ground.
And that's why they got chumped so easily.
So easily.
That's why I said if I had full wireless creation, I would have done that way instead. Use Shaw as a puppet master in the background instead.
Like him manipulating things from.
I mean, if I would say if this had gone for the full 50, you could still end, at episode like 42 is where Abaoku falls and the Zabis are defeated, and then the last 8 episodes, Char basically then goes back to the Principality of Zeon and takes it over, and then you have the fight against him in the last few episodes. That's the only way I could see them sort of bringing that thing from the original plan back in.
Yeah, that probably would have worked, but I probably.
But I'm fine with how it ended, how it ended here.
Yeah, I mean, so am I. But I am kind of curious as to what it probably would have been like if they had like the original, gone with the original plan of, like when I brought up with one of the previous videos or recordings of Zeon was going to have more exotic looking mobile suits, and because
I would have liked to see that.
But a lot of those.
But then all the ships and everything, there was already so much to keep track of as it was.
You couldn't get over the lizard-looking ship. The ship with the yellow eyes and it's red. Did you guys see the lizard ship in the last battles?
I think so.
I'm like, that's a lizard ship. It's just like yellow eyes looking right at you as it's coming to kill you.
A little salamander kind of thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of those mobile suit designs were recycled and brought into Zeta Gundam.
Okay, well, so
guys,
that's something to look forward to whenever we get around to handling that one. I know you're not looking forward to it because 50 episodes.
Maybe by then
my
Bingecasts tolerance would be a little bit higher.
maybe the action will move a little bit better for you, so we don't get dragged down.
We won't be doing 6 episodes constantly.
No,
man.
we're not going to be doing that. We'll be sticking to 4 or 5. We only did 6 with this one because we literally that was how many episodes were left.
Mm-hmm.
Would have made far less sense to break it into like 3 and 3.
True.
Or watch 5 and just leave the 1.
Exactly.
It's a Bingecast special. 1 episode. Go.
There was something that I was going to bring up in the previous one, but I had honestly completely forgot to bring it up. I don't know. I can't remember if this was in the original script for the Side 6 episode where they're fighting outside Side 6, and Temray is watching the battle. He's like, "Yay, the Gundam!" And he's sitting there cheering for it and everything. And then he just runs off. In the original script, it called for that as he was supposed to run out of his little house and run down the stairs. As he was running down the stairs, he trips and falls and hits his head and dies. So, hence why...
Kind of glad they didn't put that in. That would have just been way too dark.
So after that, you don't see Temray again, ever after that. Granted, yeah, I know you don't really see Amuro's mom again after that, but she's on Earth, and
she's very clearly wants nothing to do with the war at all.
No.
Only is really involved in that she's caring for people that have been hurt by the fighting, civilians specifically, but
specifically civilians, but
but yeah, I think that sort of sums things up. We're not sure exactly when we're going to start recording the next installment in the whole damn saga. We do know that we are going to do the side stories from the 1 Year War.
Yeah, so I managed to convince Jay here to do all the 1 Year War shows, so that way we can.
We can focus on stuff that Zeke especially wants to see.
Not just the stuff I want to see. It's just short episodes,
shorter,
really good animation. And the first time I ever saw anime titties.
8MS Team, ladies and gentlemen. If you've seen it, you know what he's talking about.
You know the funny thing is, I married a redhead, and the first pair of anime titties was a redhead.
It was a very defining moment for you.
Apparently, they were good titties.
But we've sort of discussed a couple of other mecha animes we may or anime-esque things that we may do as well. You and me, Zeke, we want to get you, Chris, to watch Genlock.
I've already said I wanted to check it out.
Yeah. So maybe and then there's the Big O. You guys both want me to check that out. I've heard good things about it, so I'd be down for it. But we have a lot of other stuff on our plates.
The pages just keep getting bigger and bigger.
It does.
I mean, the more we do, the more we knock out. You know.
And
I just think we gotta figure out a way to focus file more often because we're all over the place with all binges. We need a focus file right now.
I kind of agree, but I'm fine with us, doing stuff as and when we can, based on everybody's schedules. We may do something like we did with Fire Force, where we check it out and then just continue watching it off recording. Although once you and I, Zeke, catch up on Fire Force, maybe do a catch up podcast thing where we talk about.
Chris will probably join us for that.
Yeah, Chris
he's enjoyed that. I'm pretty sure he's going to love the donkey.
The donkey.
I've already seen the donkey.
But at any rate, I think that about some.
Would you guys recommend this to anyone?
If they're into mecha stuff, I would say check it out.
Right.
Because it's the defining mecha anime.
You have to watch your history to be able to know where you come from.
Who are you that do not know your history?
Because I'm in a Gundam group on Facebook, and one of the questions I see the most in that group is, what's the best way to watch the Universal Century stuff? And I literally sit there and go through everything in terms of chronological order. Starting with Mobile Suit Gundam, the origin, and then working your way as much as nobody wants me to say this, G-Savior.
I don't know anything about that one, so I can't judge.
God, that's about as bad as Gundam AIDS.
Okay.
I'm going to need to talk to you about that one later.
But, yeah, I would say if you are a fan of mecha stuff, you should definitely check out Mobile Suit Gundam, because it is the mecha anime that codified an entire genre. It is, as Zeke said, you got to know your history, sort of thing. I'm not saying it's necessarily. I can't, because I haven't seen a whole lot of other mecha animes to compare it to, but you still should check it out because it's the one that started it all.
Like what I said in the first episode, it's an iconic.
It's
franchise.
iconic, exactly.
But it is a creature of its time.
It is that. It is a product of its time. You can't get past. Some people won't be able to get past that, and I can't really do anything to change that for them.
It's still a war story.
It is a war story.
I think that's why I like G Gundam more than I like Gundam. Even though I love this, don't get me wrong, G Gundam's story I thought was a little bit better with the tournament arc. Then we have two wars going here and here. Have fun.
Yeah. Well, I think that about wraps things up for this edition of the Bingecast. So, for Chris and Zeke, I'm Jay, and that concludes our binge of Mobile Suit Gundam. And we'll see you with the next binge, 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 with the next